Hey, what's up, everyone? You're listening to Striking a Chord on TBK Radio with Mad Manda. Once again, our wonderful producer, editor, Rich is behind the board for us. And joining me this week, I said last week that this was going to be our Nashville edition because I have Miss Annie Dineen with us. What's going on, Annie?
Hey, not much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So for those listening who don't know, Annie is founder of Shotgun Seat, which is other website that I write for, along with some other awesome people that we work with there. And then she also has her own podcast, Pitch by Pitch, which combines music with baseball, which is awesome.
Perfect day for this show. Opening day of baseball season.
Oh my gosh, yes. Happy opening day, guys.
And my team just won.
See, so we have we're representing three different cities here because Annie's a Washington Nationals fan. I'm a Cubs fan, and then Rich is a Kansas City Royals fan.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, none of us are rivals, so, really, that's okay.
That is a big plus. As long as no one's a Cardinals fan, we're fine.
Thank God. I don't think I can have a Cardinals fan.
Bryce Harper, so other than that.
So this week, it's going to be a lot of country. So anyone listening who's not a fan of country, I apologize. So yeah, I guess we'll start with some new music alerts. The releases that came out roughly like last week and the week before. So we've got one of the full albums that came out was Lauren Jenkins, who is awesome. I know Annie and I have been talking about her for the last week now. So the women, like the female artists lately have just been killing it. So the majority of these new music alerts that I'm going through right now are all females for that specific reason. Have you listened to her album yet, Annie?
I haven't. I'm behind.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to let you do the honors.
Okay. So Lauren's album, No Saints, came out last week. And, I mean, it's such a solid album. She's got such a fantastic voice. One track that really stood out for me was track 2 on there, You'll Never Know. Upbeat, anthemic. It's basically like a letter to the one who got away for her. And then some other tracks that stood out in that one were Running on a Road and My Bar. She's got a great range. Definitely somebody who belongs on country radio. I know Rich and I had that conversation a little bit. We touched on it last week. Why more female artists aren't being played on country radio.
Oh, gosh.
So she's definitely a new artist that you guys need to be checking out. Another one is Rachel. I'm probably going to pronounce her last name wrong. Wamick?
Womack, I would guess.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't actually know either. I'm embarrassed.
So her Enough EP came out, and there was a couple songs that were on there that were previously released, if I could talk today. One of them was Damage, which is just a great, like, haunting song. Basically, about the damage love can do. And then other songs on there that are really great are Enough and Hard to Believe. That one actually kind of reminds me of like a faster paced Every Little Thing by Carly Pearce type of song, just because the lyrics. So definitely check out that if you're a fan of other female artists like Carly Pearce. And then Parker McKay, which I think you are familiar with her, aren't you, Annie?
Yes.
So she just released another single on Friday, This Far. That is an excellent song. Definitely recommend everyone checking that out.
So, every time you say someone new, I'm just adding it to a playlist, right? As this goes along.
That's the goal.
That's the way to do it.
And then, of course, our girl Abby Anderson released another song. So this one, she is basically talking about her new boyfriend. She wrote this one with Josh Kerr and Jordan Mitten.
Okay. Just saw Josh Kerr last night.
Yeah, at Tin Pan South. We were just talking about that.
Yes.
So for those listening who don't know, so Nashville's obviously known for their songwriting rounds, and Tin Pan South for the last, 2 or 3 nights had a bunch of songwriter rounds?
Yeah, it runs. I think it started Tuesday night and it runs through Saturday night. And I want to say, I might be completely wrong. I think it's like 700 songwriters across 10 venues, across like something else. It's a pretty massive festival, and there's a ton of history with it. And it basically, like, for any listeners that aren't familiar with the Writers Round, it's like 3 to 5 songwriters that sit on a stage, and they all go through and play their hits or just songs that they've written. Like, they don't have to be cut or anything, but it's the coolest thing because they tell the stories behind those songs and play them. And yes. So anyway, yeah, that's been going on all week and it's been fabulous.
Yeah, songwriter rounds, if anyone listening ever gets a chance to check them out, it's definitely worth it. It's just awesome because you get the stories behind the songs. I caught a couple at CMA Fest 2 years ago when I was there in Nashville, and then I've seen one in Chicago with actually Brett Eldridge and Heather Morgan and Jordan Reynolds. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, Jordan Reynolds was there too, and what's his name? Tom Douglas.
Yeah,
so that was an amazing night. Yeah, talk about hearing nothing but the hits.
Jealous.
Yeah, that was a fantastic one. And then so the next artist that also released another new song this past week was Mackenzie Porter, who released One More Whiskey song. And that it's fun. It's really fun because it's an interesting twist on obviously another whiskey song. So if you like drinking songs, go check that out. I don't know if you've heard that one yet or not.
I haven't. I'm embarrassed. I know. Well, the thing that's tough with like traveling down to Nashville, I'm living here part-time now. And so the thing that's difficult is like, I can either go see things or listen to things, but somehow I'm really bad at doing both in a given week. So, I don't know. For someone who writes about this for a living, I'm pretty bad at like staying on top of it all. But the other thing I do, just I don't know, now that I'm embarrassed, is I find a song that I love and then I listen to it 40 million times in a row. So it really hampers my progress. Yeah. So the Maren Morris album, for example, like To Hell and Back, I love. Yeah. And so I think I listened to it for like 4 hours straight before I listened to another song on the album. So it hampers my progress.
Yeah, we were talking about that album last week on the podcast. It's just so amazing, and I'm so happy for her, and yes. I hope she gets the radio play she deserves, though.
Absolutely. Although it seems like she's killing it such that she's gonna, make it either way.
Exactly. Exactly. So my last new music alert also kind of falls under my Amanda's music pick of the week, which is somebody who you actually interviewed, Lacey Cavalier.
Yes.
She's awesome. Her new song released on Friday was Blue Suede Couch. I'm a little scared to ask if you listened to this one yet or not.
No. She's fabulous. I haven't yet. I don't know.
So I feel like now. She's somebody who's really trying to in the process of like crossing over from country to pop. And she's doing it really well. Like she definitely has that voice that she can easily do it. This song, I mean, all of her songs that she's released so far have gone over well with fans. But this song, I think, is really could probably like push her to the next level. She's got a stunning voice. You really hear like the raw emotion in it. The song is basically like how like one simple like object just opens up the floodgates as far as like your emotions go. So it's definitely a song you're going to want to listen to with like a bottle of wine.
I can do that.
Right. And then I have another one for my pick of the week. It's older. I'm saying it only because I'm so anxious. He keeps teasing on Instagram his pictures from the studio because he's working on his full album finally. And it's Ryan Kinder.
Okay.
And I'm so anxious for new music from him because I absolutely love his voice. So my pick from him is his 3-song EP that he released last May, The Road. So if anyone hasn't gotten a chance to listen to that yet, I definitely recommend it. I believe the 3 songs on there are Leap of Faith, Alabama, and Stay. And there's a lyric video for Stay. All 3 songs are fantastic. He just he sings. He's one of those artists that sings from the soul, and it's just amazing. He kind of reminds me of like a more southern version of Rob Thomas.
Yeah, he's like Gavin DeGraw, or like he's got that cool voice.
He really does. There's definitely nobody else doing what he's doing right now. Very much like a guitar-driven sound. Definitely inspired by John Mayer, and a lot of his music has blues riffs. And he's got that Muscles Shoal Alabama sound. So you'll definitely pick up on that when you listen to his music. And then, so this one is a big part of why I'm glad we have you on the show. Is want to know like what's happening in Nashville right now.
Yeah, well, Tin Pan South is the big thing, obviously, this week. And I feel like we're kind of going into songwriter festival season. Key West is a big thing, and that's beginning of May, I think, like the 8th to the something, beginning of May, which is also, it's the Key West Songwriters Festival is kind of like Tin Pan South, but like in Key West and drunk. So it's a real fun time. All those yeah, right. All the shows are free, I think, or mostly they go all day. It's like music heaven a little bit. So that's kind of on the horizon. And then I'm trying to think what else I'm looking forward to. The Maddie and Tay EP I'm really stoked about. I love Friends Don't. I still think they have a great sense of identity, and their voices are super cool, obviously. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I mean, we're going into spring, so it's going to be patio weather, and it's going to be CMA Fest weather soon, and
all those rooftop bars.
Oh yeah, I drove down Broadway today, and for the record, for those of you that haven't been to Nashville ever or recently, we now have every single celebrity with their own bar. So there's one corner.
Yes.
We're literally on the corner. There's like a bank or something on one of them. And then there is Luke Bryan's bar, Kid Rock's bar, and Blake Shelton's bar, all on the other 3 corners. It's like a new standoff, I guess. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, you're nobody unless you have a bar in Nashville, basically.
Yeah, I guess so. So,
so something else I noticed on social media this week that happened in Nashville was they announced a couple early ACM winners this week.
Yes.
So for anyone who didn't see it, Luke Combs, Ashley McBride, and Lanko got phone calls from, I think they all got phone calls from Carrie Underwood. And I didn't watch the videos for Luke Combs and Lanko, and I'll get into why in a second. But if you go on Instagram and watch the video from Ashley McBride when she got the phone call from Carrie Underwood, it's just the greatest video because she's just genuinely like so surprised and so excited, and she totally deserves it. So she got the award for Best New Female Artist.
She was also just nominated for an Emmy, correct?
Yeah, she was.
That's pretty cool.
For a performance on, God help me, I forgot what show, but yes, it was for a performance on something.
Yeah, it was like a musical event, I believe, right?
Right, yes, absolutely.
Good for her.
I know, right? She's worked so hard. But I'll be honest with you, I was really happy to see Lindsay Ell finally nominated for something this year.
Yes.
She's another one that deserves it. She's
That's been a long time coming.
Exactly. She's constantly on the road, constantly grinding it out. I mean, the girl, like, I don't know when she sleeps.
Right. I love her song with Brantley Gilbert, too.
Yes. And you know what? I hope she gets her first #1 with that song. I really do.
Yeah.
So I know you're a big Luke Combs fan.
Yes.
So he got the early announcement for Best New Male Artist for ACMs. I'm not gonna lie, I am not a big Luke Combs fan. I don't not like him. I don't get the hype.
I mean, I think, well, first of all, I was first introduced to him at the Toad Lick Festival in Dothan, Alabama, I think.
Oh wow.
Somewhere in Alabama. And it was this outdoor deal. And I didn't know who he was, but he had already amassed, this is only a couple years ago, but he had amassed this crazy following. I think mostly through YouTube and Vine, I believe. But just these devoted fans, like through the internet, which is pretty new school, you know?
Yeah.
Especially for country. And I mean, you know, I've interviewed him a couple times since, like before all this, obviously. And like, he was so sweet, so genuine. So, I mean, now I'm biased because he's just like the nicest guy. But I think part of the deal really is just that he's built this huge groundswell in a genre where like really you require radio play. And when he put out, I think it was called This One's For You when he put it out as the EP.
Yeah.
Like, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, I think he put that out with 30 Tigers. So even then, he wasn't, like, signed to a major, push to radio, whatever. And still, you know, like, making it work. So I was talking to someone about this the other day. I almost feel like as much as it can be said, sort of, he's almost sort of pulling a Macklemore in country in the sense that he's generating a buzz that, like, most artists really can't do without radio and often can't do it all. And it's happened very quickly for him. So,
and I definitely respect, and I definitely respect and appreciate that. Like 100%. I think it's incredible that people like him and even like King Brown to an extent, like they build their following way before they even get on radio. And then that's how they're getting on radio. So I 100% am behind that. It's just, I think his sound that I find, he has a good sound, and he's definitely a lot more country than some of the stuff that's being heard. But I just think that for all the hype that he's getting, I think that there's other guys who are doing what he's doing, and they're doing it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, that's tough. Like, I don't know. Like, I think at this point you could just make it a Nashville drinking game, like who's famous and who do you wish was famous instead, right? Like,
yeah, basically.
There's so much talent, and you're like, you'll see somebody and you're like, man, like they should be a star, and then you see someone else and you're like, man, like why are they getting all this attention and radio play and marketing dollars, and this person over here isn't? And like, I mean, I can bang my head against that wall for days.
Yeah. And who else was nominated in the Best New Male category for ACMs? Was Brett Young in there?
I was going to say, if he wasn't, I'd be shocked because, like, he and Luke have been on sort of the same timeline, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they launched around the same time. They've both been sort of steadily notching number one since, and, like, kind of broke out in an extraordinary way, which is interesting because, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just interesting that they both kind of, like, captured an audience in it, like, in a surprisingly quick way.
And with two different sounds.
Completely. Well, and if they were the similar vibe, I don't think they both would have done so well. But, you know, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
And the same with all the artists that signed to Big Machine at the same time. You know, Tucker Bethard, they had signed Levi Hammond. And I don't know that Brett thought that he was a shoo-in to be the one that would take off. You know, they signed a lot of solo male acts at the same time. So
I definitely think Brett. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because I'm not like a huge Luke Combs fan, but I definitely think Brett deserved that win. I mean, he's such a phenomenal singer, songwriter, and performer overall.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's interesting that you say that, and like I'm hesitant to compare them because they are so different, but I will say, like, to your point, like when you listen to a Brett Young record, there is a very, very strong sense of who they are or who he is. And Luke's is in a different way, but Brett, like I feel like I know the guy listening to the record, and I feel less that way about Luke.
Yeah, absolutely.
The male artists, by the way, the artist up for it was Luke Combs, Jimmy Allen, Jordan Davis, Michael Ray, and Mitchell Tenpenny.
Oh, so Brett wasn't even on there. Well, that's disappointing.
That's interesting.
Well, okay. Well, then my vote would have gone towards Jordan Davis, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like him too.
Again, and when he first debuted his first album, well, his only album, obviously, I was comparing him to Brett Young, not in their sound at all, but because Brett had one of the best debut albums as a new artist, in my opinion, and Jordan Davis was the same way. He came out, he co-wrote every single song on his album, and it was a phenomenal debut.
Yeah, it was a really interesting record, like almost surprisingly so. Like, I didn't really have any expectations. I mean, we've championed him as a writer at the Shotgun Seat for I think like 5 years now, and like it's, you know, like hearing demos of his way back and stuff. I just loved his writing style. And, you know, to toot our own horn, we did have Take It From Me as our demo of the week pick years ago, and now it's a single. Yes. So, you know, but no, I love him. But I went into the record with no expectations, and I was really impressed just with, I don't know, the writing quality, the type of melody. It was really interesting.
Yeah, he's definitely got that unique Louisiana sound about him. Mm-hmm. That you get from, you know, guys like Tim McGraw and, you know, even Dylan Scott to an extent. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, every song on Jordan's album is, I mean, there's not a skip-worthy song on there at all.
Yeah, it was a very solid effort.
Yeah, he does an excellent job with the songwriting. Again, he co-wrote every single song. He's a fantastic performer as well. It's also just a super humble, like super nice guy. And then as far as the groups, so Lanco, I know a lot of people were raving about their album. I was slightly disappointed in it when it came out last year.
Yeah. Lanco for me, so I saw them, I don't know for sure. I think it may have been one of their first shows ever. But I saw them at Jay Joyce, the producer. He has a church in East Nashville, which is their recording studio, and they have like the open floor of the church. And Jay Joyce, I believe to buy the church space, he had to become ordained, I think, which kind of is a joke in itself. But Jay produces Cage the Elephant and Little Big Town and Eric Church and Lanco. And so I saw one of their showcases there. And their energy on stage was insane. Like, yeah, so captivating, so, I don't know, just great stage presence. And I don't know, that was sort of what drew me to them. And I don't want to say like the songs have like impressed me or disappointed me or whatever. For me, what's great about them is their energy on stage.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I saw them this past summer at Lake Shake, and they came out swinging. Like, Brandon is definitely a frontman.
Yes.
110%.
Exactly.
He never like stood still. He never slowed down for more than like 5 seconds of that. Yeah. He's just constantly going. So I mean, I definitely see why they got the win. I don't even know who else was in that category for best new group.
High Valley and Runaway June.
Oh,
thanks.
So High Valley. Okay, I mean, I liked High Valley's album a lot. Runaway June is great. I just don't think that they're getting the airplay, and that's probably why. I mean, I'm glad they were nominated. I just don't think that they would have gotten the win, considering they're not really getting any airplay.
Yeah, I understand why that went the way it did, for sure.
I think for that one, Lanco was kind of like the given.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So moving on then from the ACMs, so there is one other thing I saw this week that is going to be happening in Nashville, starting May 9th in downtown Nashville, is the Keith Whitley tribute, which is awesome. I guess it's the 30th anniversary memorial, and it's hosted by Keith's son, Jesse Keith Whitley. And some of the performers there are Garth Brooks, Daryl Worley, Joe Diffie, Mark Chestnut, Mark Wills, Dylan Scott, a couple other people whose names I didn't recognize. But I mean, that's definitely something to see if you're down in Nashville.
It's a pretty notable lineup.
Yeah,
it's a who's who of the 90s.
Alone.
Yeah, I know, right?
What were you going to say, Rich?
That's who's who of the 90s almost.
Yeah, basically.
Totally.
Annie, what's funny is, so you said that you didn't really get into country until like the like Jason Aldean.
Yeah, so this is something that I don't know. I don't know. This is something that I typically don't tell people because it's kind of embarrassing now working in country. But
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You're outing me. I did come to country super late. I didn't really grow up with it other than, I mean, you know, like things like This Kiss, which like you had to grow up under a rock to not know about. Yeah. And, you know, like some folk stuff. My favorite artist ever is Van Morrison. So I don't know, but you know, and like Paul Simon and like lyricists.
Yeah.
So like not country as a genre, but like some of those I don't know, sister vibes, I guess. But my first like real country record that I dug into was in 2011, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was Dirt Road Anthem, right? That was the name of the album. My Kind of Party.
My Kind of Party, yeah.
Yes. So it was that album. And I got into it because I had been dating a guy from Texas and I was 19 and he broke my heart. And I discovered this record because he had played me Mud on the Tires by Brad Paisley. And I was like, man, I love this song. Like, I must love country. And so I both wanted a way to feel like connected to him and also like, you know, post on Facebook like I was listening to country and make him miss me, to be honest. And then I listened to this record and I was like, wow, like, especially the album cuts, you know, like, and then I went back and I'm hearing songs like, you know, like On My Highway and like Back in the Cigarette and like hearing this like masculine, like Southern guy singing about like heartbreak really healed me. I was like, wow, like, you know, hip hop doesn't talk about this. Like pop doesn't really,
Definitely not.
It does, but not in the same way. And it was like, man, like, and it was so cathartic for me and it was so helpful for me. And it kind of like held my hand through that breakup. And like, of course, then you get into like, you know, the whole panoply of country, you know, older artists, newer artists, whatever. And like, then what hooked me was all of these demos and these songwriters and these songs, like even the ones that aren't getting cut. Like Scooter Caruso has this song that he wrote, I think with Casey Beathard, called Like I Know This Road, and it's never been cut, but it's kind of like about leaving and like whatever. And like the hook is like, I'm sorry, I wish I knew you like I know this road. And there's lines like I could probably close my eyes and still dodge most of the potholes. And it's so poetic. And like,
oh, wow.
Once I was down that rabbit hole, I'll find the demo and I'll send it to you. Once I was down that rabbit hole, there was no going back.
Yeah. And I feel like that's how country gets you. I know so many people who swore on their lives that they would never listen to country. Country sucked. It's all the same crap. You know, my dog died. My wife left me, blah, blah, blah. Like, fuck, you know, whatever. Like, and now those same people are the same ones with their, you know, wives or girlfriends wearing the plaid shirts and the, you know, their barely broken in cowboy boots over at, you know, whatever country concert, you know, that's come to town.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like, it's so much more than that. Like, I don't know. I tell people, like, I grew up in Washington, D.C. and I finished college in Manhattan. So, like, when I ask people what they listen to, most of the time it was everything except country. And I'm like, well, tell me what you listen to and I can find you a country song you're going to like. You just like
exactly
are going to have to like relax about your judgment and then you'll be fine. You know, it's going to be great.
Right. And people don't realize like the younger country artists now that are on the radio, they're influenced by so many different genres. And that's why their sound is so mixed and, you know, crossing over with other genres. So it's definitely brought a new audience to country music.
Absolutely. And I thought that was funny too. When we started the Shotgun Seat, like I did some, you know, really preliminary research, but I was going and looking at people's Twitters and like you would see someone tweeting about like Luke Bryan and then the next tweet is about like Ludacris. And that's just like how it is for people our age, you know, it's like because of technology and because of all these different things, like you do grow up knowing like Get Low as well as, you know, like Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I think we have like Napster and, you know, whatever the other music downloading sites were before streaming came along.
LimeWire.
Yeah, thank you. Before streaming came along, I think that's just how people kind of, you know, they were downloading full albums by artists who they didn't really, you know or really were into, and then they just gradually start getting into other artists that way, and you know, before you know it, you've got this whole expansive, wide, you know, range library. And I mean, it's great. I mean, I think people should have, you know, multiple influences when it comes to music.
Yeah, why not? It doesn't hurt. And like people have been collaborating like genre-wise for forever. I mean, like Paul Simon made Graceland and people were furious. And then like, I don't know, it worked out great for everybody, you know?
Yeah. So since you got into country music late, so do you know who a lot of the older country artists are, or are you still kind of learning?
I mean, a little of both, you know, like obviously, like, yes, like I try to do my research and I try to learn as much as possible, but also like there's so many great artists and I, you know, like I haven't listened through everyone's discography in full. So, but it's kind of nice, you know, to be honest, like I do the same thing. So like I said, Van Morrison is my favorite artist, but I haven't heard all of his albums and that's on purpose because he's older and I'm younger. And the numbers game says that like if I treat myself to like a new album a decade, I'll never run out. So I haven't quite done it like that, but I like to save it. I don't want to know everything by heart yet. I want to kind of like.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach.
Maybe a little bit stupid, but
no, I think it's interesting. I don't think I've actually heard that before, to be honest with you.
It gets a little nuts in here sometimes.
So do you know who Keith Whitley is then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So if you went to
excommunicated from Nashville at that point.
Probably.
Right.
So the next segment I want to talk about is what I'm calling On the Road, and it's basically just upcoming recent concert or recent tour or festival announcements that they've been announced. So I know one that came up this week was Rockstar Energy Drink's Disrupt Festival, which is basically the Used, Thrice, Circa Survive, Sum 41, The Story So Far, Atreyu, and a whole bunch of other bands.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it kind of felt to me when I read this lineup like what Taste of Chaos used to be, if anyone remembers that.
Not really.
Also presents, I think that was another one that was sponsored or hosted or whatever by Rockstar Energy Drink.
Got it.
So I know some people were excited about this. To me, I mean, it's not something I would go to, but I thought it was interesting. I know a lot of people were responding to it when the announcement came out. And then Disturbed added more dates to their Evolution tour. This time their openers are going to be Pop Evil and In This Moment.
Oh.
Which what was that?
Caught me off guard with that one. Thank you.
Pop Evil's a great hard rock band. I love their sounds a lot. And Disturbed puts on a phenomenal live show. If anyone hasn't seen them yet, the Evolution tour is definitely a good tour to go check out. And as far as Chicago shows go, I know one that recently got announced was Vince Gill at the Chicago Theater, and that's going to be in September. Yeah, I've never seen Vince Gill before, but he's one of those artists, from the 90s that I grew up listening to. So to me, I thought that was really interesting. I didn't even know he was still touring.
I'm glad he's touring theaters because that's absolutely where that voice should be.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing. I don't think people realize a lot of the songwriting that he still does for other artists now.
Yeah.
And then are there any recent tour or festival announcements that are on your guys' radar?
Well, this is not country. I can talk about not country too. But John Mayer just added new dates to his world tour. So yes, that's exciting. And I'm going to be honest, I looked at that lineup and I was like, like, could I go to Spain? Like, what about Japan? Like, what am I doing next week? Because why go to the same venues that you go to? Let's be a little crazy.
That's true. And his new song is so good. So good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Will always be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, he's what I'm forever looking forward to. In DC specific news, just because that's where I've been hanging out part-time lately, I'm excited that Kenny Chesney is doing smaller venues. So he's coming to our venue, the Anthem, next month, and that's going to be interesting. It's 2 nights. If I were to guess the capacity, I want to say like 4,000 or 5,000, I think.
Wow.
But that's a big step down from his football fields. So
yeah, and I know I read somewhere that he said that he was trying to aim for that now this year with his new dates.
I think that's so cool. I mean, and I'm really interested to see, because you know how small artists will play a big stage as an opener and you can tell they just haven't mastered that space yet.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm really interested to see what the reverse effect is like when you're used to a stadium and you play a club. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. And Kenny Chesney, I haven't seen him live in a long time. But the couple of times I did see him were stadium shows, but always an excellent live show. Always entertaining. Yeah. And he's someone who's just got such a wide, you want to talk about a catalog that is worth dipping into on an upcoming show. I mean, he's got some of the biggest hits in country music. It's insane.
And as an artist, he's incredibly smart because he's always been great at cutting a song that is a little bit left of center for him and then coming right back to his brain in a strong way. So for instance, cutting Somewhere With You or Somewhere With You or Come Over, which don't necessarily feel like standard Kenny Chesney songs, but he made massive.
Definitely.
And then going back to things like what was the one this year with David Lee Murphy?
Oh, Everything's Gonna Be All Right.
Yes, which is super on brand for Kenny.
Such a great song.
So, I mean, and then of course Songs for the Saints. I love that whole album. So yeah.
Yeah, and that was definitely better than I thought his last album was.
I agree. I mean, you could tell that like he felt really connected to, I mean, obviously like a lot of it was inspired with the U.S. Virgin Islands and like everything that happened there and like his experiences with that and like, you know, but I felt like there was a lot more heart in it and a lot more focus.
For sure. And you could just tell by the way the songwriting style, songs like Better Boat and Island Rain and Ends of the Earth,
yeah.
you know. Absolutely. I mean, that whole album was really, there wasn't a bad song on there.
Agree. Plus, how can you say no to Scooter Caruso and Tom Douglas co-write? I can't.
Tom Douglas is such a brilliant songwriter. It's insane.
Also, for anybody that hasn't seen his acceptance speech at the Songwriter Hall of Fame Awards, I think, if you type that into YouTube, it comes up. It's like 20 minutes, and like it is so inspiring for any creative, anything. It's fabulous, and it's just sort of about the creative process and like no matter what kind of creator you are, like the speech is brilliant, his delivery is brilliant, the message is brilliant. I cry every single time. Then I feel like I'm not hopeless and alone in the creative world. Like it's perfect. So I highly recommend. My friend, one of our writers, Sam Sanders, wrote her college thesis on that speech. So
that's awesome. So do either of you guys have any other recent concert or tour festival announcements then?
I know I'm going to see Rascal Flatts in a couple of weeks, which makes me feel weird.
So who is opening on that one? Because they have like 6 different openers depending on what city, and I wasn't like crazy about the openers for the Chicago date.
Give me 1 second. Because all I know is it's Rascal Flatts. It's a birthday present for someone, and I'm going. Oh,
okay. They're great live. It's been a few years since I've seen them. And they're another one with a wide catalog.
Billy Currington and Jimmy Allen.
Okay, I think that's who's playing the Chicago date as well.
It's right before. And
I just got done seeing Billy Currington at Lake Shake over the summer.
He's got a great voice.
He does.
I'm excited to see
him.
I'm excited to see him. Like
Jimmy Allen, honestly, I could take or leave. Like, he's just somebody like he's not bad. I just don't think he's like great. You know what I mean? And it's nothing against him. Like he seems like a great, like a nice, super nice guy. I don't know. I think
his music hasn't blown me away, but I'm enamored with his story. You know, like
absolutely.
I feel the living in your car thing. That's real. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely 100% respect anyone who can create a life for themselves, coming from nothing and the struggles that he has. I think it's just when it comes to like his sound, I think, and I'm finding this theme with the male country artists. They're hyping up these artists who are just kind of mediocre, in my opinion, when they should be like acknowledging the female artists that are just killing it right now. Like there's a long line of them, and it's ridiculous.
I'm not going to name names because I'm going to get myself in trouble, but like there's definitely a tendency in Nashville, and I mean in the music industry as a whole, honestly, to have someone take off in a huge way and then to look for the next thing just like that. I mean, how many like Chris Stapleton copycats did we get after Chris took off? How many Sam Hunt copycats? Like, and labels, like, I don't know. It's easy for me to say, I'm like a peanut gallery label person, but like for me, it's like, okay, like you already have this and it's working. And I guess I understand the tendency to want to push something that also seems like it would appeal to those people. But, history has shown that when you forge your own path, like an Eric Church, and your own sound and your own brand and your own identity, that connects in a big way if it connects. But like, I don't know, I'll get off the soapbox, but yeah, I think we end up with a lot of copycat artists instead of people really, really, really following their own creative path.
Definitely. And with the female artists, like these labels don't want to sign them because, I think Haley Shore was the one who was told by so many labels when she came to Nashville, like, oh, we can't sign you. We already have a female artist. Well, you have one female artist. You can't sign another one. Like, really? And she's somebody who's got a great sound and it's unique, but because for whatever reason, if they think it's too pop, they don't want to play her or they don't want to sign her, but go ahead and sign another, pop or bro country, R&B country, male artist. Like, I don't understand it.
Well, and it's funny because that's been going on for a long time. I interviewed Gretchen Peters a couple years ago, and she said something similar about being signed to her publishing deal. I think it was like Sony Tree or something. I mean, I could have that wrong, but they were basically like, oh, like we signed you because we needed a girl. She's like, well, like, thanks, but also like whatever. It's like calling someone like a female artist or a female songwriter. Like, we don't say like, oh, like they're a male songwriter. like, it's like, do we need that qualifier? And like, I mean, I understand now in the context of all these conversations, of course, but it's just kind of interesting. It's the same for me. It's like people say that someone's a family man, but you never say no one's a family woman. That's just like what a woman's supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's just, it baffles me what's happening in country music right now as far as the gender inequality. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what needs to happen, like, because we do have these female artists based, like, either in country or Nashville or whatever that are doing amazing, but they have names like Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris and Brandi Carlile, and they operate outside of the traditional Music Row feeder system. And I think that, like, it just is going to start to demand a certain amount of creativity, and hopefully things like Spotify can sort of level the playing field and be like, okay, like, everyone's listening to, like, a Lacey Cavalier, so either she gets played on radio or she just gets famous in spite of it,
Right. Speaking of Spotify, this happened, I think, last week or the week before. They are in the hot seat right now, along with Pandora and Amazon Music.
Because, yeah, everyone except Apple.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a law that was passed to basically for streaming services to give more credit as far as oh my God, help me out, guys. What's the word? Like paying songwriters more royalties. Thank you.
Got you.
And it went through, and it, as it should have, and then Spotify turned around and basically tried to reverse it, right?
Yeah, I think they oh shoot, or was it that they gave a recommendation and then they appealed it? I'm not entirely.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. And it was basically kind of just like a slap in the face to songwriters and all the, I mean, I remember like that morning, there was seeing like going through like Insta stories and, the Instagram feed, and there was a bunch of artists and songwriters who were screenshotting their, canceling their Spotify subscription.
Yeah, yes, there was. It's just a little bit ridiculous that we're like, for songwriters, like, okay, like I was talking to someone last week whose name I won't reveal for reasons, but he's a super successful songwriter, like multiple number ones, like, goes out on the weekends writing with the biggest artists in country. And I congratulated him on a recent number one, and he was like, yeah, that was great for me. Like, not like, oh, thanks, not like that was cool. It's like he needed the money, like that was great for him and his family because that came at a clutch time because this industry is hard. But if you've written multiple number ones and you're that A-list songwriter, like you should be and he's comfortable, he's doing well, but like your attitude shouldn't be, I'm grateful for that because it helps my family. Like I want you to be rich.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and you would think that you should be. Like, I don't understand how streaming services like Spotify can justify giving, basically like pennies to these songwriters whose songs are streaming millions and, millions of times. Like, I don't know how that works. I don't know how they justify it.
Well, the labels that are blamed too, setting up these deals with whatever that like the label gets most of the money anyway. So I don't know. It's a complicated system and ever changing. But I do think it's a shame, and that, that pervades to so many areas. Like the same with like lyric licensing. Like I can't even think of an example. Like if Kenny Chesney puts like Better Boat on a tank top, like the lyrics from that or whatever, those songwriters don't make any of that money, even though they wrote the song, same with like, Rascal Flatts goes on the Riot tour. Well, the people who wrote Riot are making money, but so there's some moment.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I've been trying to work on a piece on that for a long time. There's definitely some other areas that sort of aren't the most helpful for the actual creators. And that's tough because like whether you're an artist or songwriter or whatever, like my personal belief is like you should be able to focus on the creative side of that without also having to be your own entrepreneur, essentially.
Right.
Because some people aren't cut out for that. And it's a shame that a strong creator will only do well if they also have a business mentality, because that's not always going to be the case.
Definitely. And I think it's smart for a lot of these young, newer artists, singers and songwriters who are going to college for music business while they're pursuing their music career. I think Lena Stone was one of them, and I know Lindsay Ell went to school for music. I don't know if it was just the what do you call it, like the performance aspect of it, or if there was any kind of business or marketing side of it that she explored. But I know Lena definitely studied music business for that specific reason. Like she wanted to have a hand in what she was creating as far as like the business side of it.
Well, I went to NYU and I studied music business, and between my program in Steinhardt and the Clive Davis program, like people my age now who've made it, like who are doing well, who are in either my grade or in Clive in my grade, include Emily Warren, who's written a bunch of pop stuff and she's featured on the Chainsmokers songs, Gallant, who's just on tour with John Legend, Patrick Droney, who's doing well in Nashville now, Fletcher, who's now the iHeart pick for pop. Who else do we have? A bunch. I mean, and like the studies that you do in this program is like, for me, and there were some electives and stuff, but we started with like intro to music business. You take, even if you're on the performance side, I think you still have to take some business classes and like economics classes I took. And then we had things like artist management and like concert management, and just kind of giving you a different sense of the business. And like for my program, like we also had to take an entrepreneurship class as a senior. So like not everybody took all these things, but like it was built into the degree, that sense of sort of, I don't know, how to make your way in the world, not just as the creative side, but also in these other ways.
Right. And it's crazy to think about all the artists that missed out on royalties that they could have, claimed because they didn't have the entrepreneur, or business mindset that, artists these days now are actually, pursuing in education for.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, the tale of missing out on royalties or getting screwed because like you don't know the business, like that tale is as old as time, going back to things like the Carter family. So like, it's nice that people are sort of more able to fend for themselves and not sign a terrible deal or whatever. But at the same time, again, like, I don't know that I believe that in order to be a strong creator, you should also have that, Right. I think it's helpful, but that's what you need a good team for.
Yeah, for sure. So this week for our feature segment, I basically let the guest pick, and I know you wanted to dig into David Neal's first album, I'm About to Come Alive, from 2009. So we're going to call this feature segment our throwback playback. So I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of talk about this album and why you wanted to dig into this one.
Yes. So I need to pull up the track listing to rant most thoroughly. But this album was so good. Oops, what's the song?
It's definitely a super solid album.
Yeah. And, I really... Where are the albums on here? Oh, sorry. I'm struggling with Wikipedia. Like, I've never used this before. Here we go. Okay, first of all, so David Neal is one of the best voices in country music. And, I'm just going to shout that from the rooftops at every opportunity.
Yeah, he's highly underrated.
Yes. And there's a certain magic that comes with him co-writing with Scooter Caruso and being produced by Frank Liddell, who produced the album, along with Mike Ruck, I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, the songs on there are fabulous. And I could just rant uneducatedly about how great it is for a long time. But I did want to point out the immense poetry of Strangers on a Train in particular, which, I mean, Scooter Caruso, like, of course, for those that aren't familiar with his writing, he wrote by himself Better as a Memory and Anything But Mine for Kenny Chesney. So all of the poetry in those is 100% Scooter Caruso.
Yeah, and anything But Mine by Kenny Chesney is so many of the country artists that I've interviewed in the past. Anytime I ask them which song by another artist do you wish you'd written, that is the first song that they say is Anything But Mine. It's
just so good. I mean, he co-wrote Mean to Me with Brett Eldridge. I'm trying to think what other singles he's had recently. But him and Tom Douglas, I mean, together or individually, it's just such a level of poetry and like straightforward. And I don't know, he's just great at nostalgia. So Strangers on a Train, I love. Miranda Lambert's featured on it. They sound amazing together. And it's just sort of, it captures that what if moment. You know, you catch someone's eye like on public transit or whatever, you know, you're never going to see them again. But you kind of go into this mental, like, what if and who are they and what is it? Except like the poetry in it is times a zillion. So, you know, like that alone, I love. Turning Home, I believe, was David's only Grammy nomination. Am I right about that? Do you know?
Oh, really? No, actually, so I don't know about that. I was going to say Turning Home was co-written by Chesney and Scooter.
Yes.
Which I thought it was interesting to see that Chesney co-wrote a song on this album. Because I didn't know that.
So from what I understand, and like, if there are people in the music industry who think this isn't what happened, I'm sorry. This is the story I've been told. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not.
Okay, we get hate mail. It is what it is.
Yeah, right. From what I understand, they had written it and David had heard it, and like they weren't sure if Chesney was going to cut it, and then I guess he let him. So that's not the biggest story anyway. But it ended up in David's hands. I am looking at it. Yeah, 53rd Grammy Awards. It was nominated for Best Male Country Vocal Performance. And I believe that is David's only Grammy nomination.
Oh, wow.
It is.
But, yes.
Thank you for that confirmation,
okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. I like the simultaneous research. This is good. But, yeah, I mean, a fabulous song as well. And then also, Looking for a Good Time, I wanted to point out, because I've never, well, I don't want to say never. Rarely do you hear an artist cover themselves, but Looking for a Good Time is a Sean McConnell song, and you can basically infer the content from the title. But David, on his EP, he put out a couple years ago, he did it in like an unplugged EP, and he did, you know, I think the Weeknd song. He did an Elvis song in the Ghetto, which is also an amazing cover. Mm-hmm. But he covered his own song, Looking for a Good Time, and it was more pedal steely and more acoustic and incredibly haunting. And it completely changed like the tone of that song emotionally. And I thought that was incredibly cool that you can do such different things as the same artist, and to be able to come to a song you've sang a million times with a fresh perspective. Like,
right.
There was something really impressive about that level of artistry that he brought. So yeah, I mean, Red Light, obviously, but
oh my God, Red Light is, I remember seeing that video for that song for the first time. And I think I saw the video before I heard the song actually by itself. And the video doesn't really do it justice, because when you just listen to the song by itself, it's such a just like the lyrics are so descriptive that you're immediately like transported into that scenario that he's describing. Yes. I mean, his songwriting is just that incredible.
Yeah, well, and he's always cut smart singles. You know, Red Light has like a mid-tempo kind of radio ready feel, but it's still, you know, like there's a lot of to think about there.
Yeah, and that was only a top 10 hit. I mean, I shouldn't say only, but I forget what song it was that went number one. But surprisingly, Red Light only did top 10.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Another thing that when I was going through this album today that I thought was really interesting was the title track, I'm About to Come Alive, was actually originally recorded by Train on their 2003 album. Yeah, I know.
Wait, I didn't know that.
I know, I didn't either.
Oh my God. Wait, I have to go listen to that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
Wow, I had no idea. I'm learning over here.
I just think David Nail is one of those artists that country radio needs to be playing a whole lot more than what they do.
Absolutely. I mean, I could listen to him sing Scooter Crusoe songs for like the rest of my life and never need anything else. So I'm incredibly biased. But yeah, I mean, I think like he has a very keen sense of like the stories he wants to tell and how he wants to portray them, and the emotion that he's able to carry in his vocals is insane.
Yeah, he definitely I love that he's very songwriting oriented. He he focuses on his songwriting, he tells a story, and that's it. And I mean, his voice, obviously, you know, like you mentioned earlier, it's one of the best voices in country music right now. Absolutely. Some of the other songs on this album that I thought were really great were was Clouds.
Yeah.
And so I guess he co-wrote 5 songs on this album.
He's a great writer. But he's been good with picking outside songs as well. And I think there are writers like Jonathan Singleton and Scooter Caruso who have that sort of like next level lyrical ability that really work for him, because he does sing with such emotion and such conviction that it carries a strong lyric well. It really points the focus on that and on his voice.
Yeah.
But he also is a great writer. And like I interviewed Frank Liddell one time, and he was saying that like he wishes David wrote more because he is such a good writer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah.
A lyric from Clouds that I really stood out to me when I was listening to it today, and I don't know if this is one of the songs that David co-wrote or not, but it's isn't every goodbye a chance to become a bittersweet memory for someone. I don't know, I just got like, people don't write like that as much anymore, and I wish they did.
Well, like in related news, I'll brag on my friend Rick Brantley for a second, who is an incredible lyricist as well. He and Tia Sillers, who wrote I Hope You Dance, and Mark Selby wrote Half Mile Hill on David's second record. And there's a line that Mark put in there. Shoot, how's it start? Wishing I could fly like a cut string kite, tapping on the floor of heaven. Is anybody listening? Like,
wow.
Okay. Just gonna throw that in there like it's not incredibly amazing.
Deep. Yeah. That's deep. Like, I'm like, see, it's lyrics like that just make you stop and go, wait, what? Like, I need to like rewind or whatever and listen to that again.
Yeah. And there's songs like you can listen like the 50th time and the 51st time you like catch that lyric right, and you're like, that's whoa, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Something else as I'm looking at this track list while we're talking, that I mean, I don't know why, but it's just find it interesting for some reason that he opens the album with a track called, you know, about a state, you know, Mississippi. He opens with Mississippi and he ends with Missouri.
Yeah. Misery as he sings it.
I don't know why I found that interesting. I guess I haven't really seen that on any other albums from any other artists before. Yeah,
and something that's kind of interesting about him and geography in general is a lot of country artists sort of sing about the South and that's it. But I mean, you know, he has in Songs for Sale, he references, you know, being in Brooklyn. On his first record that he recorded that was never actually put out, he has a song called Seattle. You know, like those aren't country hotbeds per se, but he captures a feel with those places that, I don't know, just speaking of the geography side of things, I think is interesting.
Yeah, it definitely takes a special kind of artist to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, just like all the way through, there's not a bad song on this album.
Yeah, I could wax poetic about David Nail's discography for a very long time. I mean, the first 3 albums, I like every time I drive, well, all of them really, but like the first 3 when I've like the point at which I was first introduced to him, and like anytime I would drive anywhere, it would be those 3 like back like in full before I had to listen to anything else.
Yeah. And I think it was on his second album, the song, the single "Let It Rain," which featured Sarah Buxton, who anyone who doesn't know is a amazing singer-songwriter.
even her speaking voice is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
how is this possible?
And that's another song that, like Red Light, you're just immediately pulled into the story. You feel like you're right there. You know, like he you feel that same pain that he's going through.
Oh yeah.
It's just the way that the emotion is conveyed through the lyrics, and the video for it is, I mean, it's simple, but it says a lot in the, you know, the short amount of time that it's on the screen.
Yeah, well, and like lines like, what's it like the one night I forgot to wear that ring, you
right?
know, like, okay. I mean, another one like that is The Secret on his third album. Like, there's so much packed into there, and like he said something in an interview one time, like he was like, you know, people mostly guess, he won't ever say like what it was really about. He's like, people mostly guess like what I was thinking. He's like, but occasionally people have an interpretation that's way out there, but it's interesting. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that Whatever She's Got was the single, and then they really didn't go anywhere else on that album other than Kiss You Tonight, I think, right?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And then they went to Nights on Fire was the one after that, right?
Yeah, which was a big hit. But I don't think he ever really fully captured that same magic that he did with Red Light and Let It Rain.
Yeah, I would agree. It's just a kind of different. His vibe changed a little bit, and like, I don't know, like I don't think he's tried to really chase radio either. So it's not like, I don't know, radio ready or not radio ready, but I don't know. But then there's songs like, you know, like his song with Vince Gill. What is it? I Won't Let You Down. I Won't Let You Go. I Won't Let You Go. On the fourth
I gotta look.
Like their voices together are crazy too. So
I didn't know he did a song with Brothers Osborne on the fourth album, Fire.
Yeah. Yes.
And Lauren McKenna has a song on there.
Yeah.
And yes, the one with Vince Gill is I Won't Let You Go.
Thank you. I appreciate your fact checking me.
No problem. Yeah, I think he's definitely an underappreciated artist in country music for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So unless we have any more gushing to do about David Nail or anything else we want to point out about this album.
I mean, I could wax poetic about him all night, but I'll save you. I'll spare you.
No, I mean, you're good. I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean, I definitely recommend anyone who isn't, like, if you're only familiar with his radio hits, like Whatever She's Got and Nights on Fire, go back and dig into his catalog, because like we said, he's just a phenomenal songwriter and such, you know, a talented singer. It's really worth going back and digging into other songs that you definitely won't ever hear on the radio.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, do we have anything else that's coming up in Nashville that people should know? I know flights are super expensive in Nashville right now, and hotels are always expensive.
It's a destination city, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely become a popular destination, which for people who live in Nashville isn't always a great thing.
True. Or for those of us hoping to be able to afford rent still. What I will say is that even if you're not a country fan, Nashville has a lot to offer. Jack White has his record label here, Third Man Records. More and more people are moving here. Like Justin Timberlake has a house here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, you know, it's not as much as country is like the sound of Nashville, even if you're not a fan. There are cool moments and cool shows to be had. But especially if you're a country fan, then it really is.
Yeah, I think
you have no excuse.
If you're a music fan in general, it's really a cool place to visit. I fell in love with it from the moment I got off the plane when I went there 2 years ago for CMA Fest.
Yeah. No, sorry.
No, you're good.
if I had this sound like I was about to cut you off, it's because I got excited. I will say, like, I lived in New York for 3 years, and like New York has a ton of talented artists, but if you walk into your average bar, they might not be that good. But in Nashville, if you walk into your average bar, they're going to be like incredible.
Right.
So like the percent, like the like talented people per square foot in Nashville is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the other great thing about, like, incredible thing about Nashville is you could go into, you know, some random bar like, we'll just say Tim Pans, because Tim Pans is a venue, right?
No, it's across like 10 venues.
Oh, okay.
It's like that's like the festival title, I guess.
So let's just say, like, and then, like, on a Tuesday night, you go into Losers. I'm struggling to remember some of the bars that were in Nashville now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Winners and Losers have music. I mean, anywhere, like Listening Room, if you're looking for a writer's round. Like, I mean, even like, I don't know, like Roberts or like The Stage down on Broadway. Anywhere you walk into, you know, a pizza place.
But like nowhere else, like, will you randomly go to on a Tuesday night and will you find like Keith Urban there just because he got bored because he's off tour and isn't making new music yet? You know what I mean? Like, he'll just randomly show up and play. Or Blake Shelton will show up at his bar, you know, bar restaurant, to play some songs. Like, stuff like that doesn't happen in any other city. And I just think that's like, it just makes Nashville all the more special.
Yeah. Someone told me that Pink went to Tootsie's after her show at Bridgestone and like played a little bit.
I think I heard that too.
Crazy.
And I did notice that there are even like some artists, some of the band members from like some of the like alternative rock bands, like Three Doors Down or Chris Daughtry, and I think like the lead singer from Live have moved to Nashville. Like, they live there now.
Yeah. Same with Lit, if you remember them from My Own Worst Enemy days. They're based here now and love it.
And they put out a country album. What was it, last year or the year before?
Yeah, they wrote with Corey Crowder and Jonathan Singleton and Michael Hobby for that.
And that was actually a really good album.
Yeah, I was impressed.
And now Kaylee Shore has been writing with them, working on stuff for her new album. So that's going to be really exciting to hear.
Yeah. I mean, it's a music town. It's not just a country town. And, you know, like, people come for that. It's a kindred spirit. It's a creative community. And it's just that caliber of talent. For sure.
So unless we have anything else, I think we're pretty much good to wrap up for this episode. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this has been great. Thank you for letting me join y'all.
Of course. Thanks for giving us the Nashville scoop.
Always, anytime.
It's great to have that inside perspective.
And I promise next time I will listen to all my new records in a timely fashion.
Yeah, you definitely got to work on your new music.
Me, I know. But there's just so much, and when you find something great, then you just listen to it for 3 days in a row, and then there's like only 5 days until New Music Friday. So,
so tomorrow the new music that's going to be coming out. I know OAR's new album comes out finally. I'm really excited for that, and I believe that George Strait's new album comes out tomorrow. And
when do we get new Rob Thomas?
Oh God, not for another month, unfortunately.
All right, well.
I know, right?
Well, then.
The day that album comes out, I swear, like, nothing else is going to matter.
Right? I expect to wake up to a text from you about it.
Oh, of course.
Excellent.
It'll be probably 4 o'clock in the morning, so if I wake you up, I apologize.
No, be my guest.
So next week, I don't know what we have planned for next week's episode, but more new music. I'm sure we'll be talking about the new OAR record. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about the new George Strait album, as well as reviewing the Cadillac 3 show, which I will be at next Friday. So definitely some more stuff to look forward to. And thanks for tuning in again to Striking a Chord on TBK Radio.